Hello everyone, and welcome to another night here at the Fireside Tales. Once more, let's look into this world, and this time, let's talk about some of the creatures that populate it. So, I've decided to do another Fireside Tales, and it's been a while since I've done this. Actually, I think it was only October 31st that I did this last, so it hasn't actually been that long, but you know what I mean. I haven't done mini episodes here recently. Because I wanted to try something new, but at the same time, when trying something new, it's always nice occasionally to come back to what's old. To just come back and say, this is how I started out. And this is how I started out with a red sheet behind me and just telling stories to all of you. And considering the fact that I can't, my editor is gone again. I gotta bring that up. My editor is gone. It might be some of the stuff that I'm going to start doing here the most. But anyways, tonight I would like to talk about those creatures. And, there's a lot of debate about what should constitute a creature in this universe. What do you consider real? What do you consider not real? There's all sorts of burning questions here. And there are some creatures that could be on this list that I chose not to put on because they're so questionable. Like the faceless people, and the eternal fireflies. And those creatures I didn't include because either A, they're might have just been a hallucination from the person, or just because of their insanity. And B, because, some of these are just legends, like the eternal fireflies. We don't even know if those are real or not. That's just part of our folklore. But I'm going to be telling you all some of the creatures that almost definitely exist in this world in one way or another. And most of these will be religious creatures. So I want you all to be very sensitive about this. Some of these are in the Bible. So saying that these aren't real can be offensive to some people. And you can say that they're not real in the Fireside Tales, but saying that they're not real at all, it could be considered an attack on that person's religion. So try to be sensitive and keep an open mind. That is all that I'm asking. But according to the Fireside Tales, these are some of the creatures that are real. Number 1, talking animals. Now, talking animals are actually one of the most common creatures here at the Fireside Tales, and all you have to do is type into YouTube and you will find plenty of evidence that talking animals exist. There'll be ones going no and yes and mama and stuff like that. And in the Bible, it is specifically mentioned that there was a talking donkey. And you can say that it was channeled by God or a spirit, but that still proves that talking animals in some form do exist, whether by the channeling of God or a spirit or whatever. That's none of my business. I'm just saying what's there in the text. So yeah, we don't know how talking animals come about. Maybe they're a spirit, maybe they're bewitched, maybe they're something else, maybe they're just a piece of nonsense that we'll never understand. But according to legend, they don't actually speak in the normal way. They'd speak almost like a puppet. They open their mouths and close them, but it doesn't actually sound like a real person would be speaking. It looks like a fox is trying to speak. And they can move around their limbs too, but whatever they are, they come to the Fireside Tales, and they are a part of that world, and we don't know how they keep coming there. We don't. It's almost as if nonsense attracts nonsense. Like a talking animal will attract another talking animal. And that's really all we know about it. So, number 2, ghost. Ghosts are ethereal beings, and you all know what they look like. They can go through objects, and they can fly, and stuff like that. You've all seen the legends, but there are a few interesting notes I want to make about ghosts, and some common misconceptions. Number 1, ghosts cannot kill people. That is total lie. If you've ever seen a movie or an anime that said ghosts can kill people, or even heard a legend, it is not true. Now, there have been occasional moments where ghosts can kind of make people die, like a person will enter the room and see a ghost and have a heart attack, but that is not the fault of the ghost. That is the person himself just dying. They didn't really have anything to do about it, and if they hadn't been afraid of the ghost, then they wouldn't have died. But mostly they're just creatures. That's the second part. They're creatures, and a lot of folklore believes this part, but they are people that don't have their life finished. Sorry that took so long to get out. I know that was a struggle right there, but yeah, they haven't finished their earthly tasks, and they just want to complete them before they go off into the next world. Wasn't so hard to say after all, was it? Okay, number 3, magicians. Magicians are magic people, or in some cases, actually, talking animals. Some talking animals have been known to be magicians. And also ghosts, too. That's another interesting note I could have made. But yes, magicians, we're not exactly sure what kind of powers they have, but from the tales that I've read, there's a couple of things. They can cause curses, they can fly, they can levitate objects, they can make storms, and they can make objects come to life. So, wizards are seen to be like maybe creatures from heaven originally that have taken mortal form, or maybe a spirit is influencing. A lot of maybes with wizards, and they are definitely not common. There's only a few instances of them, and especially only a few instances of talking animals being wizards. Some people say they're just servants of the devil. Some say that some can serve angels and still be good. I don't want to get in there. That is a very controversial subject. But whatever the case, magicians are definitely a part of the Fireside Tales. Number 4, the Nightmare. Now, I'm a little terrified to even talk about this creature, because it is said to be the evilest monster in all of hell, the greatest beast. It is said to be made out of all the nightmares and fears we human beings have, and its body is said to be oily black, and it's like a lizard with bright yellow eyes. And originally it lived on the earth, and it would destroy just everyone. Almost everyone died from this creature, because it is one of the most powerful creatures in hell. But the angels felt sorry for the humans, and they put the nightmare down into the tunnels of death, where it still remains, and will still occasionally find people to devour, and devour all their goodness. But it is said at the end of the world that the nightmare might return, and that it might possess a human form so that it can gain intelligence. And if it weren't for that, it would still be a beast. But the nightmare is a creature that even people here at the Fireside Tales fear to talk about. It just to let you know, it is one of the most powerful creatures here. Just definitely. There's very few creatures more powerful than the nightmare. Number 5, fairies. Religions differ about whether fairies exist, but if you do believe in them, if you're Christian or Muslim or Hindu or whatever, they're said to be one step from being the highest form, or basically an angel. And the fairies are said to be just basically look human, and they have large wings, and they carry bright lights, and they really were only known to be on an island for a little while. That's really the only records we have of them. But there's a few others here and there, one or two that I've heard, but fairies are very rare here in the Fireside Tales, to the point where we just don't think they actually exist anymore. But anyways, moving on. Number 6, zombies, or mummies, or creatures of the dead. And basically they're the same as ghosts. They're skeletal forms. They didn't want to leave the body, was the problem. And these creatures are easier to defeat because if they take the body form, once the body's destroyed, they're just going to go off into the next world, or they'll become a ghost. But also these creatures can become part of skeletons, become giant skeleton monsters, and just take the form of all those dead bodies. Anyways, not too much known about them either, and they're rarer than ghosts. That's another little fact to know. Number 7, angels. The highest creatures of all. They are made out of pure goodness, and they are said to wield the sword of heaven, and also the seventh sword, which was given to the Thief Prince, and has also been given to the Fireside Tales, a sword which can only be wielded by those who wish to do good. But angels are the most powerful creatures, definitely, and the most purest, and, you've heard stories about angels. You know all about them. Anyways, talking objects. Now, talking objects are a lot like talking animals, with only really one difference. They're talking objects. Some of them can move, some of them can't. I told you about the statue, and then there's also the glass people, which actually could move, but basically we know about as much about them as we do about talking animals. It could be that they're the spirits of the dead, and there have been some stories which make that strongly suggested, or it could just be that they're bewitched, or they could be something else entirely. We don't know, and I'm not going to speculate here. And yeah, there is actually talking objects in the Bible, too. Outside of the burning bush, there's probably a few other things. But, again, I don't want to say what they are. I don't know. Maybe they're God, maybe they're the devil. It's up to you. Anyways, giants. These are actually my favorite creatures here in the Fireside Tales. Giants are the closest things to humans that also belong to the world of nonsense. They're just basically humans that are really, really big. Some are described as having a sort of rocky structure, and they're very intelligent too, actually. They never got as high as human beings in science and field, but they're very interested in astronomy. It was mostly because they didn't have the same resources as humans that humans ended up surpassing them. But yeah, if you believe in the Bible, you definitely believe in giants. I don't even think you can get away with not believing in giants. But it's said that giants helped construct the world and made the mountains and rivers and forests and stuff. I don't really want to get into that. But there's been several famous giants here at the Fireside Tales. Paul Bunyan, the one that meant Mr. Fritzer and Mr. Fritzer and the Giant. And it's said at the end of the world, the giants will come upon the world of man and destroy them. And there will be a great war between man and giants. And I'm putting my money on the giants. Sorry, humanity. Personifications. This one is an interesting one. Personifications are the forms that the universe takes. And I know that's kind of confusing, but let me just explain it in the simplest way I can possible. We got order, science. That's the natural world, mathematics and stuff like that. And then you always hear those stories about magic and stuff like that, things that don't make sense. That is nonsense. And there's also nothingness. And all those things take a human form and can have its own mind. And all of them can basically talk and act and, feel like we do. And that's the thing about this. This is where things get complicated, because it's believed by many people that the man in black might be the only one. And there's nothing in the Fireside Tales that says that couldn't be true. The man in black might be the only one. And all of these things on this list could just be fabrications created by it. They could be illusions. They could have completely scientific explanations. And there's also the man in gray, who could possibly be the actual explanation, and the man in black might be the illusion. It is really impossible to say, but somewhere out there, there is a great truth, and that is the form of all knowledge. And again, this is getting speculative, and I'm getting into some subjects I really don't want and can't get into. But anyways, number 11, demons. Demons are the most evil creatures in the entire universe. Demons are made out of pure evil. And there is nothing more powerful than a demon with the exception of an angel. In order to get an idea of how powerful a demon is, if you were to take our entire universe, it would only be a piece of sand in comparison to the evil of a demon. And demons can pretty much do anything they want, and the only reason we're not dead from demons is because there's angels. Otherwise we would be. But anyways, that's a comforting thought, isn't it? And finally, genies. So there's a lot of misconceptions about genies, too. If you find a genie in a lamp, yeah, you could have a wish, but you're not going to be able to do anything that would go against the man in black, or the man in gray, or the man in white, at least not in a particular way. And you couldn't do anything that was against God. There are rules to this sort of stuff. Yeah, you can wish for money. You can wish for power. You can do those sort of things. But if you were to wish for every human being in the world to become a puppet or something like that, you wouldn't be able to do that. Genies don't have that power. They can't go over those boundaries. But they were basically the architects of the universe. They went with God. Some performed wickedness and were put in pots. You know those stories. And people would find them and they'd be able to have their wishes granted. But I think there was only 13 of those creatures. And so far we know for a fact at the Fireside Tales that at least 2 of them have been found. And I don't really know too much else about genies, to be honest. They're a mysterious creature too. They're one of the most powerful. But anyways, those are the creatures, and I'm going to let you go before the 15-minute meters pass. But thank you all for joining me, and sweet dreams, and good night.